Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Corey Majid, and I am co-chair of the Green Team at Masjid Muhammad. The Green Team promotes the prophetic model of environmental sustainability in community life. And we partner education with action that connects Islam with creation care. So today, Brother Jameel Montgomery will be here talking about plant-based ideas for Ramadan, for a green Ramadan. Brother Jameel is co-chair with me of the Green Team at Masjid Muhammad. And today he is going to give us a live cooking demonstration of a couple of plant-based suhoor and iftar meals. Besides being involved in several environmental stewardship programs, Brother Jameel teaches Arabic and culinary arts at Masjid Muhammad's weekend school. And in his free time, he enjoys playing bass in his bands, jewelry making, and martial arts. So Brother Jameel is going to get us started by talking about the benefits of plant-based eating. But before I give the floor to him, I want to remind everyone that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was plant-based. He only ate meat on special occasions. So this is like right part of the Sunnah, alhamdulillah. So, Brother Jameel, let's get started.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Hope everyone's doing pretty well today. Thank you all for coming. I'm really excited to show you guys these recipes. So we're gonna get started off with our pasta and our pasta dish. I apologize, I'm a tiny bit behind. So I'm gonna be chopping vegetables as I'm giving you my intro for why we should be eating more plant-based. Give me 1 second while I adjust my camera. All right. So the reason why I chose specifically to talk about making plant-based products as opposed to, or plant-based meals as opposed to vegetarian meals, is we don't exclusively have to omit the use of animals because there are certain nutrients that animals have that we need. That being said, though, a lot of what we do get, vitamins, minerals, other macronutrients, like carbs, proteins, fats, sugars, a lot of those do come from plants. So the majority of our diet should be based off plants. It's never bad to have the occasional steak or chicken or what have you. But with these recipes, this first one is completely vegetarian, depending on the stock you use. You don't have to use the specific stock. I believe I put vegetable stock in the recipe, but I'm using a, let me see if I can find a package. No, it eludes me at the moment, but I'm using a vegan beef bouillon, well, vegan beef bouillon for this one. And it gives you the general taste of beef, but at the same time, it's all entirely plant-based. So you can use whatever stock you're wanting for this recipe, vegetable stock, chicken stock. It's all gonna kind of boil down into its own flavor though. And right now I'm getting started on our onions, making sure they're nice chopped. They don't have to be super uniform. They're gonna be cooked down for a while. So don't worry if you're not the best knife cutter, as long as you're using technique that does not harm you or is safe. That's the best way for you to cut an onion. Oh, I apologize. For those of you not more familiar with French terms such as mirepoix and mise en place, I'll go into those. As you can see, I have my mise en place for my recipe. Over here, this is going to be our pasta, and mise en place means everything in its place. So I have all my ingredients that I'm going to need, including my pot of pre-salted water. I wanted to salt it before I started it, sorry, after I started it, so I could show you how much salt you guys should put in, just in case you guys aren't familiar with that. I also have my pan for my vegetables and the sauce, and for my other recipe, the avocado, I have the mise en place for that over here as well. And in regards to a mirepoix is a ratio of onions, celery, and carrots in a 2:1 ratio by weight. It's a very nice base for a lot of things. Back when in high school, I was doing a culinary competition, and I was making a duck dish, and the duck was braised in a mirepoix. And you can use that as a base for a lot of sauces, like I did with that dish, or for this one, this is the base to our sauce. It is a mirepoix based sauce, well, tomato and mirepoix. But there's nothing wrong with carrot, onions, very delicious. Now, if you notice in the recipe, I said celery seed or diced celery. And the reason I asked, or I potentially called for celery seed, is because I don't use a lot of celery a lot. So in order to imitate the celery flavor, because I view celery as more of a spice than a vegetable, honestly. Use it more for texture and flavor than anything else. No one really craves celery. It's more so you crave its flavor. But I don't use celery a lot, so a lot of the times it'll go bad before I can utilize a entire head. I usually just use them one stalk at a time. But I tend to use my onions and carrots, which also keep longer, more often. So this is a way of, if you don't use a lot of celery, there's a way of kind of getting a mirepoix without as many ingredients, or being a bit more efficient. Now we're cutting our carrot. And yeah, also, in regards to skinning your carrots, you don't need to skin them unless you're like making carrot sticks where you can actually taste the difference. The skin is a tiny bit bitter, but as long as you wash out all the dirt off, there's a lot of nutrients in here that you don't necessarily need to take off. We're just gonna chop this up. I'm gonna probably cut this into, let's see, so many pieces. Probably do quarters for the back because it's thicker, and half for in the front. It also just depends on how chunky you like your sauces. I'm not that kind of guy. I like a finer mince. So actually I'm gonna do sixths for these and quarters for these. More importantly, what you want to do is make sure your onions and carrots are a consistent size. And the reason we want them to be a consistent size is because in the case of onions and carrots, they cook at a similar rate because of their density. So we want to make sure that we don't have one that is a different texture to the other, unless that's what you're wanting to go for. But I'm wanting a uniform texture between all the vegetables in here, not the mushrooms, they're fungi, but between the carrots and the onions, I'm wanting a uniform texture. So I'm gonna cut them all around the same size. And getting back to plant-based cooking, the reason I went with these recipes today is because they're based more around Mediterranean diets. Avocado is a very popular food to have in a lot of plant-based diets because it's a very interesting fruit in that it's high in fat. I think it's the only fruit that I can think of that's high in fat. And they're fats that are good for you. So we're doing that dish, the avocado toast, as a way to highlight that and for you to appreciate the avocado's qualities outside of guacamole, which is delicious, but nothing to knock, but we're just utilizing it a little differently. This dish right here, this pasta dish, a lot of pasta dishes are vegetarian or semi-vegetarian. So I didn't want to show you guys something niche and unfamiliar. This is a bolognese. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And it's usually a meat sauce. It's a tomato-based meat sauce, not very tomato-y, but it's mostly about the meat. But we're going to substitute that with our portobello mushrooms. You don't specifically have to use portobello. You can also use baby vella, or if you don't have those, white button. They're all the same species. These are just more mature varieties where they've been allowed to grow out bigger. You also don't need to specifically have a medium size. I just went to medium size because it's easier to look at portions. So after everything's cooked, everyone's getting about half a mushroom or so. Now we want this really tiny, and because we're wanting this to mimic our ground beef. This is going to be our beef in the recipe. So you want it definitely way more coarser than this texture right here. This is the texture I went for our vegetables, for our fungi. We are first going to do really small slices. And don't worry if you can't get it super small. The mushroom will shrink. So if you can't get it into any thin slices, that's fine. It's probably going to be at least half the size after we cook it. And I'm also going to do a basically mince this. If you're not familiar with the term mince, means to chop very finely. Mushrooms are also a very unique food in that they're of a different kingdom of life. So again, they're fungi, they're a fungus. So they grow and act a little differently than most organisms that we eat, like whether that's plants or animals. I'm pretty sure someone out here, including myself, has overcooked at least one item of food, whether that's whether that's a steak or maybe some cauliflower or something like that. But you see a trend in that when you overcook plants, they get mushy most of the time. And when you overcook animals or animal products, they get very dry, tough, and leathery. And that's just the way their structural components work. A lot of the times when you're cooking animal products, it's going to be protein based. So the proteins, when they have heat applied to them, they contract and shrink. That's why your steak looks smaller after you cook it. Partially due to the water loss, but also because the proteins in the steak have changed structure. Now with plants, the structural component is cellulose, which is, if you ever seen sawdust, that's a pure, I would say the purest form of it, probably the closest you can get to it. But pretty much all plants have that in some way, shape, or function. That's the fiber that is listed on your nutrition facts. And the problem with cellulose is that it's great. It's nice, it gives you that crunch when it's nice and fresh like this. But when you apply too much heat to it over time, it loses, its structure gets compromised and you end up with mushy vegetables if you put too much heat. Now, the unique thing about mushrooms is that their structural component is chitin, and that's found in a bunch of the animal kingdom as well, in the exoskeleton of insects and like crustaceans and stuff like that. But we're concerned about the mushrooms. Now, the cool thing about chitin is that it's very hard, or it's not very heat susceptible. So you can't, it's very hard to overcook a mushroom. I'm pretty sure you guys have like cooked mushrooms and they've gotten slimy on you, but they've never really been dry or leathery unless they were, they've never been tough unless they're just dried out, which is easily preventable. It will just absorb more water if you put it. So we're gonna put this burner on real quick, add in our olive oil. You don't really have to measure it, just about a tablespoon or two. I would say about that much, maybe a tiny bit more. And the cool thing about this is because, well, getting back to the mushrooms and their structure, the cool thing about chitin is that, again, it's not very heat sensitive. So it's very hard, almost impossible to overcook a mushroom. So knowing this, mushrooms are a lot more gentle if you're wanting to get into cooking and you're not very confident in your skills or you're wanting to branch out a bit more. Just start with mushrooms. They're very forgiving. All right, so I'm putting my pan over medium heat, getting all the mushrooms in there. I'm gonna put a small amount of water in here. And this is just so we can create some steam to get it started. Please don't add this in later because the oil will splash at you and we do not want that. So we're gonna get our cover, put it under that, wait for a bit. Make sure you have some stirring utensil. I'm gonna grab my wooden spoon real quick. Then after we get this to the ideal texture that we want, you'll see it'll change. If your pan's too cold like mine is right now, you can turn the burner up to high until it starts to get rolling, and then we can reduce it back down to medium. But a bit more on plant-based diets, and more so a lot of Mediterranean diets. They have a lot of different fruits and vegetables in that area. Incredible variety. And what I love about Mediterranean cuisine is that there are so many dishes and so many foods that people just love, and no one's like, where's the beef? There's a lot of things we eat over there: falafel, hummus, various pasta dishes. I would say paella. I'm not entirely sure if it has to have seafood. I'm 90% sure it does, but it's not. But again, paella, it's not a meat dish. It's more of a seafood dish. But the main component of the paella is the rice. You also have other dishes such as risotto, which is another rice dish, meatless, maybe some chicken stock, but outside of that, a lot of these dishes are plant-based and they're better for the environment as well. And the reason why plants are better for the environment than animals in terms of consuming directly is that they consume less energy, if you're talking about volume. All right, so now that our mushrooms are starting to cook, as you can see, we're getting a small amount of water in there. And it's not sputtering just yet. I'm gonna reduce the heat to medium. And we're gonna add in a little bit of salt. Now what the salt's gonna do is not only season our mushrooms, but it's also gonna draw out some of the moisture we want from these mushrooms, because we want these mushrooms, they have a lot of water in them right now. We want them to pretty much dry out and get almost ground beef texture. And you can see they're starting to shrink already. If you're noticing that you're not getting as rapid as a simmer as you would like, you can turn up your heat a bit. But getting back to plants and how much they consume versus animals, there's always some energy loss whenever you have transference of energy. That's why we eat things, so we can get energy, so we can utilize our energy. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, we are not autotrophs. We do not make our own energy like plants do. Plants, they bask in the sun and they photosynthesize to create sugars so that they can utilize those for energy. Humans, we need to eat those or eat things that eat those so we can get energy. So as opposed to putting in extra steps where there's energy loss, you can just go directly to the source, eat your carrots, onions, or your mushrooms in this case. And it's more efficient for the environment because it utilizes less resources. I'm not sure if you've seen any articles online that tell you how much per volume or per pound of foods need a certain amount of water or space to grow. So a lot of the time, let's say, I'm gonna say at least, let's say one onion or lentils. Lentils are a good example. They don't require a lot of water to grow and they don't require a lot of land relative to the size of the plant. Very low impactful, and they're also very nutrient dense, good source of protein, carbs, fiber, vitamins, minerals. But if we're to compare beef or lamb, lamb's actually very intensive. That animal has to graze over pasture for an extended period of time, be given a lot of water, utilize all that water, time, resources, and energy before you can utilize the energy it has taken in for ourselves. And the problem with that is if you do that too much in terms of the environment, it takes a toll on it. A lot of waste is created, a lot of CO2 is outputted, as well as other gases. And it becomes less sustainable. Like the Prophet, sorry, apologize. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he didn't eat meat a lot either. Meat was a very rare occasion. He wasn't having it every day like some of us would. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm not entirely sure how often he would have it, but definitely not every day, like as typical in more Western diets. And if you go to other places, again, like I said, in the Mediterranean, they don't eat meat like that, or at least in most of the areas, they don't eat meat as frequently as we do more westward. All right, now getting back to the mushrooms, it's almost there. Almost there. I'll turn the heat up a little bit. As you can see, there's not really much water left. Now we're frying the mushrooms.
Jameel,
Yes.
so you sent me the recipe, but I can't find it. Did you email it to me? I'm trying to get the
I
recipe to
sent
everyone else.
them over Facebook, I believe.
Okay, I'll go check that. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Looking good, looking good.
Thank you.
You can I come by and get some once you're finished cooking?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, this I made this recipe so it has at least 4 servings, so it's just me, or I cook just for myself. So yeah, you're more than welcome to. Right, reducing the heat a bit more. Depending on the kind of pan you're using, you may have to mess with the heat a bit more. I'm using a fairly thin pan, if you can't tell. It's about a 1/4 inch thick on the bottom, so the heat kind of fluctuates more than I would like, but that's fine. I can just adjust my knob a bit more. If it's getting too hot, dial it back. If it's not hot enough, dial it back, etc., etc. Really quickly though, for those of you that are using cast iron or an untreated pan such as aluminum, I would not recommend you use those for sauces that are acidic. And what I mean by that is sauces that utilize tomatoes, lemon juices, sorry, citrus juices, vinegars, anything of that variety. I would suggest you get something that's more inert, like a non-stick fan. That's what I got right here, even though it's a little thinner and less controlled in the terms of heat. But we can, again, we can compensate just by moving our dial back a bit more. Now, I didn't really touch on it too much, and I'm gonna start to do it now, but mushrooms are a good source of protein. They are fairly protein rich, and they're very minimally environmentally impactful because as opposed to plants, which are autotrophs, mushrooms, they utilize leftover nutrients from other organisms, whether that organism is a decomposing tree or is a what's the word or is not. In fact, sometimes they grow on other mushrooms. It's mushroomception, but they utilize energy in a way. Oh, when your mushrooms get about to this color, when they're decently brown, very small, that's when we're going to add in our vegetables. You may have to turn up the heat a bit more because by adding these vegetables, we just effectively cool down our pan. You may have to add in a little bit of water, get it started as well. And this is where we add in our celery seed. So I'm just eyeballing it. Celery seed's a bit potent. I'm going for about, I want to say, around half a teaspoon, maybe a bit more, a bit less. If you like celery, put more. If you don't like celery and you want it more as a background flavor like I do in this instance, you can put it about the same amount. If you don't care for it, you can omit it. I feel like you'll be missing something, but if you don't like celery that much, no worries. But getting back to the protein in mushrooms. Everything has protein in it, including plants, because proteins are amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks for pretty much all or 90% of the reactions you have in your body to make energy, sustain yourself. And mushrooms are particularly high in those. So you don't always need to go to animal for those sources, even though they are great sources, and that's all that mussels are pretty much is proteins. But you have other plants or organisms such as mushrooms that are very high in those as well. You don't have to consistently get those from one animal or from one source. It's actually very recommended or highly recommended that you eat a varied diet. All right. And variety is the spice of life. So, you know, if you are wanting something different, eat something different. You know, spice it up every night, once in a while. Which reminds me, I did not include it in the recipe, but if you love spice, I would suggest you add in your red pepper flakes now. I'm kind of getting there. You get enough Indonesian friends, yeah, it'll happen. And, and I'm gonna add in some red pepper flakes. However your spice tolerance is, if you have none or you're just wanting this to be a fairly mild sauce, you can omit it. I feel it adds a little bit of flavor. Now you see our onions are starting to get sauteed. A little bit on the translucent side. They're gonna cook down very much so anyway. Our carrots are also getting there as well. Almost there, almost there. Now we're going to turn the heat up a tiny bit because we're going to add in our tomato paste. I do not have a full can of tomato paste, so I'm going to supplement with this squeeze bottle right here. These things are amazing if you use tomato paste in small amounts, like here and there, or you're just a single person like me who doesn't always use a full 6 ounces of tomato paste every time you cook. I highly recommend you get one of these. It's about $3. I want to say they're in the same section as they're in the same section as the regular tomato paste cans. So I'm just gonna put the whole thing of this in there, and then about 3 tablespoons of the other. But if you have the full 6 ounce can, just plop it in.
Jameel,
Yes.
you want me to tell you what I do so I don't waste tomato paste when I have the whole
Please.
can? So I'll get some wax paper, and I'll get a tablespoon and put a little bit of olive oil on it, and I'll scoop tablespoon scoops of tomato paste on the wax paper and freeze it, and then put it in the container. So whenever I need a tablespoon or 2 or 3 of tomato paste, I can just pull it out the freezer already proportioned. Otherwise, that tomato paste that's left in the can is gonna go bad.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you that might be worried about the tomato paste freezing, tasting different or something like that, you kind of want that to happen, because a lot of the time when something freezes and it's not the same quality, it's your freezer burnt, or the ice crystals that formed mess with the structure. But a lot of the time you're using tomato paste in the sauce, and you kind of want it to be broken down, and it almost already is. All right, so what I'm doing now is just mashing this into as much as I can of all the vegetables in here. Even though this is technically a tomato-based sauce, it's not gonna, by the end of this, it's not gonna be super tomato-y. It's kind of gonna be its own thing. All right, add a bit more. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Stirring this in as well. I'm gonna have my heat back on medium, and we're going to get some browning on this, and then we'll deglaze it with what was I gonna say? We will deglaze it with our stock. Now, because I'm using a bouillon cube, I'm gonna put my bouillon cube in now, and then you can get some nice mildly toasty flavors in here. And then we'll have this, and then when we add all the water, it will be thoroughly dissolved, and it will be the same as though we added a whole 2 cups of stock. I wish you guys were here. This smells amazing.
It's definitely starting to look like meat crumbles.
Oh yeah, definitely. And if you guys are wanting a more or less meaty sauce, you can just adjust the amount of mushrooms. If I have time, I might add in another one. Because again, the mushrooms shrink. If you think you don't have enough, you might be like me and might be slightly mistaken. And you also want to keep this stirring constantly, as you see I'm doing, because this burns very quickly. Tomato paste has a lot of sugars in it, and it's very concentrated, and we do not want that to happen, because those off flavors will be in your sauce. We do not want that. If you're wanting for it to go a little quicker and you don't have the patience, what you can kind of do is spread it out, let it stay there for a bit more while you see the steam's getting off. We almost want this as dry as possible. And then we just go back to stirring. This is also the time you should put on your pot of water. I'm gonna leave this for a bit. But your pot of water, if you do not salt your pasta water, I highly recommend you start doing it. It will make all the difference in your pasta. I forgot to get penne on my food shop, so I'm gonna be using fusilli. As long as you use some kind of pasta that's great at holding small granules of meat like we have in there, probably what was I gonna say? I probably should have minced the carrots a bit more, or chopped the carrots a bit more finely.
It looks really good close up. Looks even better.
Thank you. But the reason why you have different shapes of pasta is so that they can hold the sauce better. That's the entire reason why you have literally hundreds of shapes of pasta. It's all about sauce. So anytime you see something with twos or ridges, usually it's just a means of getting more sauce onto your fork. So with penne, that little hole you have in the middle and those little ridges you have on the sides, the ridges are to hold the sauce a bit more better because it increases the surface area. And that little hole is for any little fillings like these small pieces of ground meat that we will have in the lasagna, sorry, not lasagna, in the pasta, that they can be easily put onto your fork. Now, if you notice, our mixture has significantly darkened. I like a bit more mature of a flavor on my sauce, so I'm gonna let it go for a bit more. And you know this is starting to sufficiently dry when you see that there's oil on the edges. I don't know if you guys can see that too well, but that's the olive oil. It's a very different color from when we originally put it in because the tomato paste has almost stained it. This beautiful, ooh, I don't even know that color, what you would call it, but it's kind of like it's not a reddish green because that's impossible. It's like nice orange. It's like a very nice orange color. Again, so we're gonna keep this going probably for about a minute or two. And then we will deglaze with our cups of water.
Jameel, I just want to give you a time check. We're at 5:39. Just letting you know, okay?
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. So in that case, I'm gonna cut it a bit early, and we're just gonna go ahead and deglaze right now. And don't worry if it's too soupy right now. That'll be all right. Stir, combine for everything. Now, because we just added a large amount of cold water, this is about lukewarm right now. So you want to put the burner on high until it gets to a simmer, and then we'll put it on medium low, uncovered. All right, so I'm just putting this to the side, and then we are going to shift over to my other mise en place station. First things first, I'm gonna toast my bread. This is a sourdough bread that I'm using. I love sourdough to death. It is my favorite bread. This is a variety we call olives. You don't have to have it in there, but you definitely want some kind of crusty bread, something with like at least 1/4 inch of nice crust that you actually like. No, but you can use whatever bread you're wanting for this. It doesn't matter too much. Also, for the sake of time, because I'm running slightly behind, and I also forgot to get chicken eggs at my in my shop, we are going to make this recipe vegetarian as well. It will still taste the same, or it will still taste just as delicious though. I'm gonna also show you guys how to cut an avocado. Let me rinse my knife real quick. So let's go back to the uniqueness of avocados. I love these fruits so much because that's what it is. It's a fruit. It has a seed. It's a fruit. Fight me. First and foremost, split down the middle. And we want to go all the way around. Don't move your knife out. Just keep moving the avocado around your knife. Now we twist it gently. And you don't need to do it super hard when you do this. If your knife's heavy enough, like mine is, you can just kind of drop it almost on the seed like that. And then you twist gently and the seed should pop right out. Now there's two ways of doing this. If you want the best shape for your, if you want the best or most untouched shapes for your slices, I recommend you cut it with the skin on and then take the skin off, or you can cut it like this, just a little bit, just enough so you can get something to hold on to. And then we're going to gently peel this off best we can. Depending on the ripeness of your, yes.
I was just asking if, can you give any tips on making sure your avocado is ripe when you buy it from the store, if that's what you're looking for?
I think you went out, Corey. Oh, so I'm just going to assume that was a question. In terms of ripeness for your avocado, there's about like, I want to say 3 different ripenesses you want. This one's a little too ripe. It would be more ideal for guacamole. And, but you would want a moderately firm avocado if you're doing avocado toast or something where the avocado is being used in a way where it's not being blended or like emulsified. 1 second while I'm just working. I'm giving a quick stir to my sauce because it's at a simmer now. And it should be starting to thicken up. Again, don't worry if it gets too thin. Don't add any water to it yet. We're going to be adding some water from the pasta pot later. Let's keep it going. So getting back to this, my toast is done. I'm gonna move my bread out the way real quick. So after you cut your avocados, you want to make sure you're doing these in nice even slices so that we can fan this pretty well. If it helps, pinch, well, not almost pinch the 2 pieces of avocado that you're cutting, the slice that you're making, and the rest of the avocado that has yet to be cut so that it doesn't move. Oh, my bad. I almost forgot about ripeness. So you want this to have a slight firmness to it. Like this was a better avocado than this one. You want to have a slight firmness to it. It should be soft-ish or yield slightly, but it shouldn't leave a dimple or an indentation when it's done. And that would be your most ideal for if you're wanting avocado in poke, or if you're wanting it in avocado toast like this. All right, so my toast is toasted and my avocados are ready. So here's the cool part. We're gonna gently grab the avocado, nestle it in our hand, and we are gonna push from one direction. So I'm gonna push in this direction and it's gonna fan out like that. And so we can just place that in the most ideal shape, spread it out a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. And then do the same with this. If it doesn't look the best on the other side. Just make sure you have it or oriented in a way where that side is not really being displayed too much. All right, so those are our toasts. Again, gonna wash my hands. All right. So now going back to our pasta real quick, pause this. My water is currently at a similar or almost a boil. Ideally, you would want it at a rolling boil, but this is fine. It's only a minute or two from rolling boil, but I'm on crunch time, so we're going to that a bit. I'm opening my pasta and using about half the bag. Let's see, yeah, about half the bag.
Jameel, you're on mute if you didn't know.
Sorry about that. Can you say that one more time?
I said you were on mute.
Oh, my bad. Dang it, did my headphones disconnect? I think they did.
Yeah, I think they did disconnect.
Give me one moment, people. Technical difficulties, I apologize. Okay. Am I back? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Turn it up.
Can you guys hear me?
You're kind of low. Your volume is low.
That's weird. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's not as loud as it was before.
Let me reconnect again. Really quickly though. Again, still simmering.
Can you move the camera out a little bit? Can you move the camera out a little bit from the microwave? Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we're stirring this occasionally as to prevent burning. And because we just put our pasta in, we're gonna put on about a 5-minute timer. And when we're about halfway to that going, or sorry, halfway to the packaging directions, we're gonna take out some water, set it aside, and then drain the pasta. Let me reconnect in the meantime.
All right. If you're not able to reconnect, just make sure you're close to the phone when you start talking, okay?
How am I now?
Oh, you're really loud.
Better than previous though, right?
Yeah, it's super
All
clear
right,
now.
so gotcha. I'm doing that. All right, so moving back to our avocado toast. This is almost done. So what we're gonna do now is get some lemon juice. You can either get a fresh lemon or just a pack of lemon juice like I have here. And you're just gonna put a little bit on directly on the avocado. We're gonna get some salt. And salt to taste.
I like to put
You also want
everything bagel seasoning on my
everything
avocado
bagel.
toast.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yes, it's just so good.
Yes. Whatever seasoning you want. This is what I'm just putting for my preference. I like salt, pepper, smoked paprika. This stuff is amazing. Please get this in your pantry. You will thank me. I'm getting some freshly cracked pepper on here, just a little bit. if you guys have what is it, ground pepper at home, like stuff that's already ground, I highly recommend you start using freshly ground pepper because it is all the difference. And then we're going to just put a little bit on here, and it adds a little pop of color as well as flavor. Little goes a long way. Let me bring this into the light. All right, that right there is our avocado toast. So can I get in focus? Yes. And in the recipe, I have an option to put an egg on there if you want. Because again, this is plant-based and there are certain nutrients such as B12, vital in, I want to say neurogenesis, like the health of your nerves and blood cells. So it's a vital nutrient that you need. And that's only found in animal or only naturally found in animal products. And that means any animal product. It doesn't have to be meat. That could be eggs, meat, milk, cheese, fish, shellfish. Anything that comes from an animal contains it. So you can also get it from various, a lot of vegetarian sources will have it because they want the vegans to be able to live properly. So, but if you're wanting to get a natural source of it, any animal product should do. All right, so we're almost done, almost done. I'm gonna move myself back over here. And now I'm gonna take out my pasta water. Always take out more than you need. I took out about a cup. I'm not gonna need a cup, or hopefully I will not need a cup. Again, always take out more than you need. And we are going to drain our pasta. And again, it should be about the halfway cooking time to what's listed on the package. Now, after we drain it, immediately we add in our pasta to the dish. And this is just how I make pasta. I find it more tasty this way because it adds a silkier texture to the sauce. The starch in the pasta water acts as a binder, and it's less fattening this way. Yeah, tends to be a bit tastier. If you're able to, yes.
Did you just add water or broth? You added a little bit of a liquid. Was it water or broth?
Yes. So the liquid I just added in was the pasta water from the pot. I probably should have adjusted my camera over. So I took out about a cup of water or so. I have some leftover water here. I filled it up to about the cup level, and then I poured roughly half, about roughly half into the pan. And then we're gonna put this on high or medium high and let this really cook down. And this is going to cook the pasta in the sauce is gonna be served in. So you have more of the sauce flavor on the pasta already, as well as some of the starch from the pasta itself, and the pasta water is going to help congeal the starch and give it a smoother texture. And this is when you put your final seasonings in. I'm gonna put in my herbs, which are basil, one spout. There we go. So I'm putting in my basil, my oregano. A lot of recipes will call for a lot of basil as opposed to other spices. I love oregano though. It is very spicy. Well, not exactly spicy, but a very powerful spice. So I tend to put a bit more of that in there. That's just me. You do you. If you do not like oregano, I'm not sure why, but if you don't like oregano or don't like thyme or stuff like that, you can omit it. And this is the rolling boil you're wanting to get. I'm gonna zoom in after I crack my pepper. So this is the boil you're wanting to get with your pasta so that you can get that ideal texture. We're wanting to evaporate off a lot of the water right now. And don't worry about whether or not your pasta is cooked. You can just take out a noodle. Well, if you're fasting, it's a little more difficult. You'll just have to get good with it. There is an art to properly season food without tasting it. Every non-Muslim professional chef will look at you like you're crazy, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. But if you're able to taste, I suggest you taste it right now. Taste the texture of one noodle. If it needs to cook a bit longer and it's at the ideal thickness like it is now, then you would just put in a bit more water. But right now, I'm actually going to take it off because the sauce is going to cool a bit more. Anytime, for those of you that have cooked with, what is it? For those of you that have cooked with any cornstarch-based sauces or roux-based sauces, you know, where you add butter and well, some kind of fat, usually butter and flour together, and then you have the sauce cool. It is thicker after it is cools than initially. So right now, our sauce, is thick enough to coat the back of a spoon, and it's only going to get thicker. So right now, I'm actually going to plate. Actually, I'm gonna cut one of these and see if it's done. Yes, it is. Also, keep in mind, I'm cooking this to my preference of noodle texture, which is al dente. If you do not like al dente style pasta, then I suggest you cook it a bit longer in the water by at least a minute or two, maybe a bit longer in the pan by a minute or two. All right, now I'm gonna start spinning the sauce over. And again, if you're wanting a more meaty-esque sauce, you can add more mushrooms. I would say about twice as many. You know, mushrooms are cheap as they come, or at least the portobello ones. If you're wanting other styles of mushroom, those are great. I actually have some morels right here. These are definitely like super mushroomy mushrooms. They're very expensive, usually anyway, but if you go to your local farmers markets, I'm not sure, but yeah, you can see right there, that's only $8. I went to, what was it? Mom's Food Market by my house. I want to say it was either a $16 or $10 difference for the same amount of mushrooms. So shop local. All right, now we have our pasta plated. And again, I am, container. I'm a promoter of plant-based diets, not specifically vegetarian diets. So right now I'm going to get some Parmigiano Reggiano and grate it on top. If I can just find my zester or microplane. And this is some good stuff. If you're ever gonna utilize small amounts of animal products, because that's what I love about plant-based cuisine is that we don't have a lot of animal products in there, but when we do use it, it counts. And right now I'm using less than 2 tablespoons of cheese, and this will make all the difference. Alrighty. So that is it, I believe. Wow, on the dot. Wow, I'm very proud of myself for that.
Can we get the close up? It
Yes,
looks
doing so.
delicious.
Thank you. Doing so right now. Doing so right now. So this is your vegan bolognese and your avocado toast, suhoor and iftar respectively. You can tweak this however you like. You can put an egg on there if you're wanting a bit more protein. If you're wanting, again, more or less meat, or you don't like mushrooms, you can completely omit this. It will still be delicious. If you don't want cheese, no problem. If you're wanting to tweak it in terms of other stuff, size of the carrots, it's your recipe, your food, or make it your own recipe, make it your food. You know, this should be fun. Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Jameel. It looks delicious, and now I'm even more hungry. Thanks for that. But thanks for these wonderful ideas on eating plant-based during Ramadan. You can check out Jameel's delicious meal ideas. He posts some on his Instagram. It's electric SMG. Like,
yeah, I probably should get an R tag. That's my gamer tag that I've used like since middle school.
Well, you can find him at electric S like Sam, M like Mike, G like Garden on Instagram. And if you would like to get involved with the Green Team at Masjid Muhammad, please email me at Kori, Kori, at greenramadan.com. Thank you so much, Jameel. I'll see you in a little bit. I'm about to pick up my food.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you, everyone.